Hey, you ever see somebody just like driving their life completely straight into the dirt? And you're just thinking, like, what are you thinking, man? You want to ask them, what are you thinking? Don't you even know where this is going? I mean, you can point out everything wrong with what they're doing and where it's heading, and all the mistakes that they're making, and they ain't even trying to hear you. Why do you think that is? Why aren't they listening to you? Why won't they hear you, man? I mean, if they just look at you, they can see that, you're actually living a pretty good life. And you know what? And you probably are a really great example for them. Why don't they see you? Why aren't they trying to hear you? You're looking at them and you're telling them, man, you're living your life in the gutter, man. Why don't you see where I'm at? Why don't you think that's working? I want to challenge you because a lot of times, and I used to be on the other side. I used to be the one just driving my life straight up into the dirt. And I had people going, man, what are you thinking? You're in the gutter. Get out of the gutter. Why don't you get out of there? And they're trying to call me out. None of that worked for me. And the reason is because your life, when being so clean and so shiny and so perfect, seemed like an impossibility for me. See, I knew where I was, and a lot of times these people know exactly where they're at, but they're strapped, man. They're just tied up into a lifestyle that they just can't seem to get free of. And what they don't really need is somebody on the outside going, come on, get out of there. What's the matter with you? There's a great life out here. Why are you still stuck there? That's not what they need. You see, they need somebody to recognize that they're strapped in and they really don't know how to get out. You see, there's this thing is called a yoke, right? And this yoke, they didn't use straps this small and stuff like that. This yoke was used, all right, that they would put it around oxen, all right, and they would use it to pull, right, and do work for them. But the scriptures tell us this. When finding this, man, when finding people who are caught up like this, when finding people who are just seem to be stuck in a life that seems to be going nowhere, all right, it doesn't tell us to yell from the streets and tell them, get over here. It actually tells us to get closer to them, to come near them. It says it just like this. He says in Isaiah 58, the Lord tells us, he says, this is the kind of life I want you to live. To loosen the bonds of wickedness, to undo the straps of the yoke, and to let the oppressed go free, and then to break the yoke. He says, man, when you have somebody that's all strapped up into this lifestyle of pain and hurt, you know what I mean, and addiction and whatever it is, bad choices over and over and over again, and they're more and more and more and more wrapped up. He doesn't tell us, tell you, get out of there, get away from there. He says, no, he tells us very gently, he says, to loosen the bonds. He calls us to come alongside there and to kind of loosen that bond, all right? It's strapping, it's tight, and it's right around their neck, and he tells us to loosen that bond, right? And then he says to undo the strap and to let them go free. See, what does that require for us to come in there, man, and to see somebody? It requires a proximity change, right? To get closer to them, to speak a little bit more into their life instead of outside of their life. In order to come into somebody and start to undo those things that are just strapping them so tight, it requires a gentle touch, a gentle heart, and just to let them know you're not afraid to get close to them. They allow you to see how you're there to help them loosen those straps that have been holding them down, that have been leading them to a life just live straight into the gutter and into the dirt even. And then when you get there and you're close, they're going to allow you to take that off. And they're going to allow you to be used by God to be set free. And then you, with their help, can reveal to them, this is what has been holding you for so long. And now you can see it because it's no longer wrapped around your neck. Now you can see it, and together, bam, you bust it. And you say, no longer is this going to control my life. You see, that's the life, that's the help, that's the love that Christ has called us to in the lives of those people that are just so strung up. And maybe it's addiction, maybe it's just bad choices in life that keep leading to one another. Maybe it's a life that says, I want nothing to do with God. This is who he's called you and me to be. Those who come along in love and get close. Undo, loosen, undo, set free, and together break that yoke. I know, man, it's a challenging life. I know it's just hard to even consider you being able to get that close. But God's not sending you alone. He will go with you. Matter of fact, he's already there, and he's calling you into that life. What are you going to do about that? Jesus loves you, and so do I.